because all of this universe can fit in one pinhead. That was the size of the particle of light which exploded and to which it returns. All these trillions of spaces. And no matter how much flight you give to the wings of your fancy and imagination, no one can find the end of that transcendent being called consciousness, also known as God. Okay. If God was filling up an immigration form to enter the United States, which is very likely, the name God, aka consciousness. Address beyond this world. Stateless. What I want is that you learn to walk in this reality, not just enjoy a lecture. That all your perspectives fit in that scheme of understanding, even if you do not have direct experience of transcendence that the meditation masters have. At least catch this, even if it sounds fanciful to you, even if it sounds poetic to you, let that become your perspective. Okay. I'm sorry I have this bad habit of never sticking to the topic announced. Oh. Okay. So let's get that clear. When I speak to neurologists, I speak differently. I accommodate them. Swami Rama, he did the same. When he spoke to the surgeons, he accommodated them. He spoke in their language. This transcendental reality, spaceless, timeless, is the one that says, before Abraham was, what did Jesus say? Before Abraham was, I am. What did God say to Moses? I am that I am is my name. Tell the children of Israel, I am hath sent thee. That was consciousness speaking. So this consciousness, spaceless, timeless, whether all permeating or not all permeating is irrelevant, but happens to be all permeating because even that pinhead called the universe could not function without its permeating the pinhead. But its sole function and purpose is not to permeate the pinhead and make all the molecules run. That just happens incidentally. That when consciousness touches a clod of the earth, when consciousness touches a clod of the earth comes live, becomes self-aware, and becomes a full-fledged human being. Not only a human being, any living being. Depending on the degree to which it realizes that touch. A chimpanzee realizes that touch to slightly less degree, but realizes that touch nevertheless. And that is why the chimpanzees or the kangaroos or human beings or snakes or reptiles or alligators or tiny microbial beings all have a continuum in common, continuum of consciousness. Okay? Let's understand this principle first. Okay. The language of science is valid in its own place. Nobody is challenging that language. A molecule has a world of its own and laws of its own. But if by understanding the laws by which one molecule interacts with another molecule, you think you will understand the entire working of consciousness, then you are mistaken. That molecule may be in the literal pinhead or in the figurative pinhead we have just talked about. That touch of consciousness, that touch of, what is consciousness? How would you translate that word now? God. God has no states. So we are not out there to measure the states of God and say, God, I've got this wonderful biofeedback machine, I'm going to measure your states of consciousness. Let me see what brain waves you produce. I wonder what God would say. Oh. Okay. So, please understand, whatever this force of consciousness touches a clod of the earth, it touches the clod of earth, turns into a living being. And becomes an instrument of divine will. Becomes an instrument of the workings of consciousness. Must understand these words like divine will and grace and descent of divinity. What do we mean by these words? You can write tomes, volumes of theology. They will just sit there as volumes of theology until you aspire for that personal knowledge of its presence. The consciousness is not going to reveal itself to you. It has revealed itself to you. You are its revelation. Your very presence is its revelation. But we don't recognize that, because it has given us freedom to recognize or not to recognize. And we have used our freedom in favor of a volitional ignorance. volitional ignorance